Welcome back, Unsilent Church. We're here with my peoples. James, good to see you. Crystal, we like having her here, I gotta say.
Yes, I like being here.
Yeah, when Crystal in the building, I'll drop it.
So, Crystal, thanks for coming back and chopping with us. We are looking forward to talking about, really, I think a subject a lot of us have been following and texting one another about and saying, well, is this really happening? And it is happening. I think that the title of this is whitewashing history, and that word is very deliberate in many ways because
it's unfortunate.
Unfortunate. Yeah, exactly. Unfortunate. I think a lot of people think are concerned about it, but it's to really sort of say specifically what we're seeing going on. In some ways, this episode follows the DEI episode that we did. In the wake of the efforts of our current administration to sort of root out DEI everywhere, there has been a very chilling effect on education in a lot of different places. Well, actually, not just education, among a lot of public institutions, museums, etc., to basically eliminate everything that they consider DEI to sort of get ahead of the government potentially getting after them. But the effect of that has been to essentially remove Black history from places where it was prominently featured or at least was taught. And so
it almost seems like their translation of DEI, the removal of DEI is Black contribution, Black involvement, Black showcase, anything that shows any degree of, even call it Black excellence, like the movement that happened there, anything that shows that, hey, where Black people have made a contribution in significant ways, foundationally, historically, like in every single domain of society. Again, a lot of people would say we've built it, that Black people built this country. Just a lot of those artifacts, a lot of the documentation, a lot of the, the real evidence that shows that is like deliberately and vigilantly being removed.
Yeah, I mean, even and more broadly too, it's also sort of almost anything that speaks to America's very problematic racial history, anything that sort of deals with it or has asked people to kind of wrestle with the different things that have happened in our past, just even more broadly, those things are being removed and being challenged. So let me just give some specific examples. National Park Service removed a reference to Harriet Tubman and the Underground Railroad. So they sort of described the Underground Railroad, which Harriet Tubman started, ran, etc., driven by her. They sort of described it more as this kind of collaboration between Black and white people, right, to help slaves, right, which is that's not historically true. White people did help, but Harriet Tubman is central in the Underground Railroad. In the Naval Academy, the library of the Naval Academy, they began removing, I think, a couple hundred books from the Naval Academy's library. So Maya Angelou's I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, a memoir talking about her struggles with racism and trauma that she wrote in 1970, they removed that. It's mostly featuring Black people, but actually it's beyond that too. They removed a book on the Holocaust, about how female victims of the Holocaust were portrayed and remembered. There's a book, here's what's interesting, what stayed. There's a book called The Bell Curve that argues that Black men and women are genetically less intelligent than white people. That's still in the library. A critique of the book, that got removed, right? So that happened in the Naval Academy, in the website of the Defense Department. They removed the webpage about Jackie Robinson. There was a webpage just mentioning Jackie Robinson served served in the Navy, I think during the war, right? They removed that webpage referencing him. So these are just a couple examples. I should also mention at sort of local levels.
He's in the Army.
He's in the Army. Okay, so in private schools, especially Christian schools, we're seeing. This is interesting. They're removing things, but then replacing it with other things. So, for example, a lot of textbooks in some of these schools are referring to Malcolm X as a Black supremacist.
Oh my gosh!
They're referring to. They talk about the war between the states, which is the Confederacy often used to describe the Civil War, and about Northern aggression, right? One of the books that was in this Christian school says this: the end of slavery in this country was a legitimate goal, but much was done in the name of abolition that was evil, as evil as the institution of slavery itself. So you get what it's saying?
Yeah.
So wish we had to get rid of slavery, but what abolition did was also just as evil.
No, that's that there were good people on both sides argument. It's like
referring
again,
to
that's egregious, man. Like the Christians are writing about that. I just go, man.
There's a section of the book, the same book, that says black immigration and talking about slavery and saying, by the way, not all immigrants have come to America willingly. Sorry,
wow.
Slaves were just unwilling immigrants.
That's in Christian textbooks, like at Christian schools.
Yeah, exactly. So let me just finish with this, and then here you guys sort of we can bounce around a little bit on this. Some of this, obviously, a lot of this has been challenged publicly, very loudly, and that some of it did get walked back. So from what I've known, what I've been told, the Defense Department put the website back up about Jackie Robinson. National Park Service put the website talking about Harry Tubman and the Underground Railroad back after a pushback. That being said, not everything.
That's crazy. It's like people are doing these tests and it's like, hey, let's see where we can.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that it happened says something about where we're at, and that it took sort of really loud vocal pushback to get some of this
outrage.
Yeah.
It took outrage.
It should be.
Now, I'll sort of play a little bit devil's advocate to sort of say what I think people will say in response to some maybe saying hearing this. But before that, I mean, what do you guys? As you guys have been saying this, hearing this, what are your thoughts about this? What do you think it says for where things are at now? And something I wrestle with as a Christian is like, man, like, is this like for such a time as this? Like, do we need to be way more vocal about like, hey, like this is in some ways this isn't Democrat Republican thing. This is wrong because of how it approaches truth and other things.
Yeah, I would say also because it also eliminates. It kind of gets people off of the hook for what's happening in these communities now. These communities are still suffering. There's still a lot of poverty in Black communities. There's still a lot of, just people being marginalized. Like, this is a result of our history. And if you can erase the history, then you can rewrite that narrative that, oh no, these people are just, lazy.
It's their fault. Yeah.
It's their fault. And so the danger in that is you get to tell the story the way you want to tell the story and get off the hook for not helping those who are suffering, those who are in great pain. But yeah,
I think it's not a concern. I feel like my anger, frustration is that amongst God's people, like in church conversations and conversations with people who believe themselves to be Christians and who are professed Christians, one, they believe these false narratives, right? And generation after generation, it blows my mind that from the inception of this country, there have been what they would call gospel preaching evangelical churches.
Yeah.
Right. Jesus following, God honoring, Bible believing, gospel preaching churches that have been active and complicit and participants, in a lot of these, from owning slaves to participating and feeling like Jim Crow and segregation were just okay things, right? And continually voting to put the people who believe these things in power. And then you get to the 60s and 70s and 80s and then 2000s and then now it's 2025.
It's not too long.
And it's like, y'all put this person in office again? Like after everything that was said, after everything that was done, after everything that like someone showed you who they were and you said, yeah, we'll take Barabbas. We'll take him again. We'll take him again. And that blows my mind. And then when you start to see the whitewashing and the erasure and all this stuff, I mean, I can imagine somebody being like, well, will they put it back? I was like, why would you remove it in the first place? And the fact that you would even have a response, a positive response that says, oh yeah, this administration is doing a great job. Yeah. Despite the inhumane ways, despite the official way in which they just laugh and sort of flippantly talk through all of this stuff. And my biggest thing is like, we just take it hook, line, and sinker. As the church, like as Christians, we just, again, I just go, man, this is, I just go, how is this not, first century Jews in Rome? Like, how is it not the same thing? And you think like, man, a Messiah could come today. If it wasn't the first century and it was today, I go, we would have crucified him. Yeah, same thing. It would have been the same thing because he would have come talking immigration. He would have come talking race. He would have come talking money, and we would have been like, that's too much.
Absolutely.
Get him out of there. Give us that guy.
Yeah.
Well, what some people would say as pushback, I would suggest would be, the reason we have the administration that we have, or even some of these pushes, is because things have gone too far. And so now it's just it's a pendulum swing. Yes. And maybe it's gone too far in the other direction. I'm giving sort of the best version of the argument that I've heard, but, and so
it's so hard, isn't it? I could feel it. It's so hard.
Well, I'm trying. So, because this is sort of what I do. I want to always try to understand the other side.
Sure.
Yeah.
And give the best version of what they would say. I think they would point to a lot of other sort of examples in which sort of this, we've talked about this. Some of the DEI pushes have suggested or said things that aren't helpful or whatever. I mean, they would say that this is sort of a correction, maybe that better way. It's a correction to where often I hear like what the left has done, right? And so the left has indoctrinated people in sort of these different categories. And so this is just really a course correction. One, maybe that has gone too hard in another way, but I think their pushback would be, don't you agree that in some cases, some of these places have really pushed too far where, for example, white people are all oppressors and white people have nothing to contribute, et cetera. I mean, or these sort of kind of categories that this is a correction to that. And so other things got swept up in this, and hey, this gets a little bit off topic here, but it applies. So the argument for DOGE, right, the Department of Government Efficiency, right, that all the things that they're doing is, I think it's called zero budgeting. So you basically break everything down and then you slowly build it back up, as opposed to, that's the easiest thing to do. So yes, and shutting everything down, breaking everything down, you're going to lose. Good things will be damaged, but they'll come right back very quickly, and it's easier to start from zero rather than try to like tinker at the edges. I wonder, maybe some would argue that's what we're doing here. That like, hey, let's just wipe the slate clean and then sort of start over and assess what's actually good material in these areas of race, Black history, et cetera. So you're not buying that. I'm getting.
It's not.
I'm just because the problem is like whenever you try to say like let's wipe everything clean, I go, who determines what's clean?
Yes,
it's probably my first question. And every time someone tries to say, oh, we need to remove them, I'm just like, it's interesting what who gets to choose, and what always gets chosen to be included and excluded.
Yeah, and
there's a book called is it White Fragility? Is that the book? Mm-hmm. There's a degree where like, man, sometimes you have to you have to be honest.
Yeah.
And you got to mature. Like meat is for the mature Christians.
Yeah.
You got to deal with real history. You got to deal with real evidence. Yeah. And you got to go, okay, when you look at the African continent, like again, the fact that you would even accept that your Christian schools are changing narratives to say that, like forced labor, the enslavement of people through war for economic reasons was simply immigration, was forced immigration. Like to remove the language and the heinous nature of what that entire operation was. Like it was a sophisticated operation to eventually get to industrialization through very, very low cost, right? Treating people like animals, not caring about life. So then when you talk about pro-life, I go, help me make it make sense, right? But to accept it, that's the issue. I'm always like Christians are not being honest. You're accepting that this is being taught in your schools. You know what's being taught in your schools, and you're not saying anything. And you're still giving these schools your money. You're still continuing in these relationships. You're letting people have these conversations and say these things without the correction, the exhortation, the rebuke to go, hey, that's not the true story. Hey, that is not true, right? And again, when you start to say, no, Jesus is a liar, Jesus is blaspheming, and you just go along with the narrative, you're amongst those who would have said, crucify the man. Because you weren't reading. You weren't like the Bereans who were like, no. The scripture said that a guy would come like this, that a Messiah would come like this. That's what they said. So, no, truly, this is the Son of God, like Peter says. But everyone else was like, no, that's what the high priest said. Oh, no, that's what my pastor said. No. The pastor said, like, no, they're black supremacists or reverse racism. And I'm going, hey, this is not to say that there aren't things, obviously, that go wrong. Like, everyone's had conversations and people weaponize a thing that's actually true, right? You weaponize, woke when that was the thing. You weaponize DEI to get money or to, you take it too far and you try to sort of flip and, black people are doing what white people were doing to them. And there are people who are doing those things wrong, but take the entire story.
Yeah.
Like enslavement in this country, desegregation, legalized, institutionalized, like class systems. I go, that was a very real thing that we can't just go, oh, well, I know it feels like that now, but it's not a big deal. It's just getting things back where they were so that the economy will be better, and then schools will be better and then everything will be better. I'm like,
I think that's the danger that I see in the church as well, when we kind of detach our allegiance to God versus like these nationalists.
Yeah.
Because when we think about the person of Jesus, right? Like, he was one who didn't come in like with the hammer, with the fist, like, hey, I'm going to do it this way. He didn't come the way they thought he would. Yeah. Absolutely. And so when you think about these particular decisions that are being made, who's spinning that narrative? And it's mostly those who are empowered. The one who with the most power controls the narrative. Mm-hmm. And so that should then also say, like, there's something happening. Where were the people of color when those decisions were being made? Why aren't they elevated? So, I mean, we need to also think about that. Like, that's the heart of things. We don't see a lot of black people who have those, are in positions to challenge those thoughts.
Now, again, I've seen videos where, again, just like in every generation, there are many, white people who have helped the cause, like white people who marched on the bridge in Selma, the people who fought, lost their lives, and like all of those things. This conversation isn't necessarily at you. I think the conversation goes to Christians who believe that they're following Jesus, who believe in the idea of being conformed every day into the image of Jesus, looking at these things and just believing those narratives, believing that, oh man, the left and the right. It's just like, stop finding yourselves caught in that kind of conversation. Like, stop being merely human. Like Paul would say to the Corinthians, it's like, you should have better judgment. Like, when you're in those conversations and you have that position of power, like, why are you still not being the person who remembers the true narrative of those who have been marginalized? Why are you not the one sort of bringing them into the conversation, saying, hey, this is better for everyone, not just turning it into DEI, but understanding it. Diversity is a good thing, right? Equity is a good thing. We want to include all people. That's what we want.
Yeah. And then, I would say too, maybe for those who might be thinking, well, yeah, but this book is problematic, or that push, or these type of things. I don't agree with these things. I don't agree with that take, or et cetera. I want to be able to dialogue and push back on that. I want to say, well, yeah, you should, but you actually have to have the opportunity to do that. Right. And I'm talking particularly in the college level, especially. This is one admiral. I love this quote from him in the article that was mentioning what was being pulled from the Naval Academy. So he was in charge of the U.S. forces in Europe. And so he basically says this, look, books that challenge us make us stronger. We need officers who are educated, not indoctrinated. another person say, look, these are most intelligent students in the world. What are we saying if we don't trust these young men and women to have access to these books, right? To be able to at least know what's out there. And I sort of take as a takeoff from that, as Christians, I mean, one of my arguments for Christians to be about religious freedom and diversity, et cetera, is that like our gospel can stand up right against all attacks. So yeah, I'm not.
You need a big boy faith. Come on,
exactly. So like, if someone wants to say, make an argument like this book, The Bell Curve, that like black people and are less intelligent than white people. Sure, make your argument, and then you're gonna get strong pushback on that, right? I'm not gonna. I want people to know stuff like that is being said. I'm not gonna try to hide that, but then I want to create a space where then you're going to hear why we think that's wrong and all the other things that come from that. And
so you're going to get dismembered by somebody who's more intelligent than you. I go, that's what's going to happen if you read a book like that. Like,
that's true. But
what are we talking about?
I think it says something that like rather than the most honest way is to speak truth, right? Against in all directions. So if things I believe about race, or if I have a sort of angle in Black history that you think is wrong, I'm welcome to hear it. But your way of sort of engaging with me shouldn't be like, let's shut Ramon down. We don't want to hear what he has to say, right? And that's essentially what we're doing. We're trying to sort of steer things in a certain direction, as you're alluding to. Certain people are deciding, and certain select people are deciding, here's what should be said, here's what should be known, and we're going to act like nothing else exists. Yeah. Nothing else is out there. And
that's so dangerous.
More optimistically, though, dangerous. The one thing I would say, though, is as alarming as all this is, fortunately, the reality is like a lot of stuff is out there. The internet is large and vast. Yeah. One of the things that I try to hold on to a little bit in this, I mean, a lot of this is depressing and discouraging, but like you can't hide stuff, right? And nearly as easily as you could before. Yeah. And so you take out that Harriet Tubman webpage, there's screenshots of that like all over the internet. Mm-hmm. And so my hope for especially for young people is, this is where like the TikToks and these other places are really helpful. Yeah. Because it's places where like, hey, you can try to, you can't eliminate that. you can't squelch that. That history needs to be continued to be told. The truth about, and I think as Christians, one of my big things I've always said is Christians should be more truthful than anyone, also more redemptive and hopeful than anyone, which pushes against both multiple directions, right? And so some people don't want us to be redemptive and hopeful and say like, no, like people will always be this way, always racist, always discriminatory. And I'm going to be like, well, no, God can work in people's hearts. Yeah. He can work in a country. Like what happened in the 60s is remarkable, miraculous. It shouldn't have happened. So we want to be more redemptive and hopeful than anyone, but also we want to be more truthful than anyone. Mm-hmm. Some really bad things happen. Every year I'm like, I find out worse things about people's sin. Mm-hmm. We shouldn't try to like downplay that or hide that. We should reveal that more than anyone because we have both ends of the story. Yeah.
I think when you guys were deciding that this would be, and I don't know, this could be a stretch, but I thought about the children of Israel when they came out of Egypt and how there were practices that they had to remember. Like it was these scriptures that you constantly see in the pastors, like remember when you were once in slavery. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Passover was about that, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, remember what I've done for you. And yeah, these are things that we should remember, whether however you want to spin the narrative or not, but this was a wrong that was right. Or, you know what I mean? That God made right. He freed the slaves. That's something, at least in my history, that I resonate in the passage when God removed the slaves. Mm-hmm. Like that's something I can cling to. It's like, okay, God, this is not something new in history. This is something that has happened like centuries ago, and you're still doing this. And this is something that I can see God working. That is the hope, right? That is like, okay, even though we're free, maybe there are systemic things that we are faced with, but still God, like you said, can do it again. He can continue to correct, and liberate.
Yeah, my hope is just that, again, you can't control, it's like Paul saying, like, I can't control what non-believers do. I can't try to like, come with some sort of authority or try to tell them to follow these kind of laws. But I do pray that God would wake his people up. Like the fact that we even argue that there are systemic problems and institutional issues. It's just like, are you not paying attention? And now it's on like public display. Yeah. Like the way institutions are being built and then being used to sort of unravel and change and erase. Yeah. And I go, hey, stop acting like children. Like, stop thinking like children. Right? When I was a child, I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. I reasoned like a child. But when I grew up, like, I put away childish things. Christians, man, put away childish things. Like, wake up and see what people are saying. Listen to the pain of those who have been saying this for generations and generations and generations, and start talking to those people who you have relationship with that are in those places of power. Yeah. You know these things are happening. Let's stop acting like they're not.
And I would also say, and it's not just, I think it's not just Black people. We have to also, make sure the indigenous people who have been in this country, we're not erasing those Hispanics who've been in this country, because Arizona, we are literally in the land that so it's not just isolated to Black history, but all of the history that the wrongs that have been done in America at our forefathers' hands. We need to fight to keep those stories alive.
Yeah. I mean, that's how we learn. That's how we grow. Well, thank you guys. As always, great to talk with you. There's a lot going on these days. I'm sure this is a topic and other similar topics that we'll be thinking about, talking about, and engaging on. But not just us. Hopefully, many of you, as you listen and are thinking about this, love to hear your thoughts, comments. You can do that under the comments under our YouTube page, or you can just contact us directly. We'd love to sort of engage with you and continue to hopefully learn and grow in positive ways. So that's it for us. As we always say, love God, love people. We're out.